Good morning, Higher Black.
Hello, everybody.
How we doing today? Shout out to everybody checking on in.
Come through, bacon. That's right.
That's the latest comment. Come through, bacon. All right.
I love we're talking about brunch right now.
People talking about IHOP.
Oh, yes. Yes. Need more food. Yes, you need more food than I agree.
Oh,
Get some bacon.
We should have had food out here with us.
Oh, man.
Since we Brunch and Budget should have done should have had some recipes ready, but it's okay. How y'all doing today? I see you're doing your food thing. I'm Dialect.
I'm Pam. Hi, everybody. We're so excited to meet y'all today and be at the Higher Black Summit.
Yes. We're excited.
And starting your day. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. This is the start of the Higher Black Summit, right? This is the kicking off. So we'll be kicking things off just to make sure you're at the right summit. This is the Higher Black Summit. In this session, we're talking about personal finance and the racial wealth divide. This is not the Higher Black Summit, which talks about efficiencies amongst Black Americans in the marijuana industry. This is also not the High Your Black Summit, which is safe strategies for introducing yourself to white people. This is Higher Black. Just trying to make sure we get at the right thing that we end today.
You got jokes this morning. You got jokes. I love it.
Yeah, big up everybody in the chat. Ebony, Shireen, Anna, Diamond, Chanel, Felicia, Jackie. There's a bunch of y'all.
Yeah,
Allison.
Y'all. I love it. Okay, everybody, we're ready to go. Let's see. Can we get this? Oh, yes. Thank you. All right. We're sharing our screen. We are going to be talking today about personal finance and the racial wealth divide. Let's jump in to, the disclaimer. So Brunch and Budget is a registered investment advisor, which means that please do not construe anything that we tell you today as financial advice. It is for educational purposes only. Financial advice is very personalized, very one-on-one, and we cannot give direct advice today. Yeah. Educational purposes only. Basically,
the whole thing of it, I know fine print is usually there to play you, but here fine print is here to protect you. We don't know enough about your personal finances to give you accurate advice, so we can't hold you down in that regard. If you need more personal specific advice, please speak to a personal finance professional. That might be one of Pam's people at Brunch and Budget, or it might be someone else, anybody you trust.
Mm-hmm. All right. And a little bit about us, if you're not familiar, I'm Pam Capallet, as I mentioned. I'm a certified financial planner and an accredited financial counselor. Founded Brunch and Budget in 2015 and also co-founded Pockets Change, which is a hip hop and finance workshop for youth program. And Brunch and Budget really started as a way for me to help my friends with their finances. I started off literally trading food for advice, and it became a full-fledged business. And one of the things that I found at Brunch and Budget was that about half of my clients ended up being people of color. And I realized that I had to plan for them differently than my white clients. And I found that they were often first-generation college graduates, first-generation immigrants, first-generation professionals, first-generation making a salary in their family. And so we had to plan for them differently. They were more likely to have student loan debt. They were more likely to be sending money home to their family, less likely to have a history of homeownership in their family, less likely to have an inheritance expecting in their family. And so we really started digging into the racial wealth divide with Brunch and Budget, and Dialect and I host the Brunch and Budget podcast together too.
Yeah, the racial wealth divide is kind of me. I'm the case study for that. I'm mixed race myself. My mom is Black and my dad is white Jewish immigrant. So all of the stuff that she's talking about, I saw on one side of my family, the family that I stayed with, and saw the other side of my family attempt to deny those things from us. My background is that of an educator, a musician. I've been a hip hop MC and a teacher for more than 10 years. And before I started working with Brunch and Budget, I wasn't thinking about the fact that I was a freelance professional. Mm-hmm. You know, we think of ourselves, us in the creative field, we think of ourselves as starving artists, and that's curated. We're believing that we're supposed to be poor until someone plucks us from obscurity and makes us rich and famous. When I was a working artist the whole time, and working with Brunch and Budget has given me the tools to explain to other creatives and all types of freelancers about how we can take more control of what we're doing.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so we're going to dive into the stats right now, because what we know is that a big part of personal finance, especially for POC, is understanding the racial wealth divide and looking at things through a racial wealth equity lens. So the racial wealth divide, you may have heard the stat before. We got these stats from Prosperity Now. The racial wealth divide, the average net worth of a white family is 10 times the average net worth of a Black family.
I think it's like 10 and a half times, but yeah, around that.
Yeah. And so the racial wealth divide, as you see, has grown from 1983 to 2016. And this stat is something you may have heard in the past as well. The numbers actually increased since the
well, that's the thing
happened,
about the
yeah.
ever-growing gap report. It would take Latino families 84 years to amass the same wealth as white families have, and that's if racial wealth inequality stopped today. And Black families would need 228 years. The more recent stat is that it would be 242 years.
Mm-hmm.
The ever-growing gap report actually talks about how things are going backwards, and by 2053, the estimate is that the average Black wealth will be zero.
Yeah, and if you look at this, the years of slavery in the United States is 245 years. The wealth gap is 228 years. Not a coincidence,
Not
y'all.
at all.
And then this stat, when we talk about income, the difference between median wealth for single men versus median wealth for single women by race and ethnicity.
We didn't make a slide about it, but we should talk a little bit about the difference between wealth and income in a second.
Yeah, but this is the average median wealth. And if you look at the stats are pretty staggering as well. When you look at white wealth by single men and by single women is astronomically more than Black and Hispanic wealth.
Like it's not even in the same category. We're talking about hundreds while you're talking about double-digit thousands.
Yeah. So the racial wealth divide is real.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like people love to share the stats, and we rock with a lot of these cats who make and put together the stats, and they are of the mind that stats don't lie.
Yeah.
And that's true, but stories do. Yeah. And that's the thing is the stories that we build around the stats, they tend to create the conditions that allow for the racial wealth divide to not only grow, but to flourish.
Yes. So this is an Instagram post that we saw, and they took the stat before. They're a little bit off, but the gist is close, right?
Yeah. It's not exactly
it's not about the
same
numbers,
stats, but like the stats are pretty similar.
Yeah, they got the gist. And then this is their conclusion that they came to.
Studies, and I'm going to read it out because I needed to read this out. Studies says an average Black woman looks good from head to toe and very flattering, but only worth $10 or less because they live above their means. Yeah, I know y'all heard the grammatical errors in that mess. Hispanic women struggle just as hard as Black women, but they are more willing to live within their means and work together as a family. What? As for a white woman, has a median wealth of $40,000. Reason is because they are more open to talk about financial debt and make the right financial decision. Now, I looked at that stat. Did that stat?
Go forward, yeah.
Oh, we have the stat ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I looked at that stat. Does that stat say anything about living within your means, living above your means, about struggling, about any of those things?
Nothing. Yeah. Stats don't lie, but stories do.
Yeah, I see one of the notes.
I already don't trust something with that sort of grammar.
Right. You can tell that's not just typos. And the stories constructed around the stats are the issue. And that's the thing is like the stats that they have are like close enough to accurate that you feel like, oh, well, if the stats don't lie, this should be able to tell the story. But it doesn't. It's very easy to rationalize.
Yeah. And here's the story that we've been told about our personal finances, right? The reason why communities of color are not doing as well financially is because they're doing something wrong in their finances, on the job, personal decisions. This personal responsibility rhetoric that we've been dealing with our whole lives when it comes to our finances is so ingrained in our common sense, right?
Yeah. People be beating you down on personal responsibility when we live in a literal collective community.
Yeah. And the reality is that the reason why the racial wealth divide exists is because we have an upside down tax system. We have residential economic segregation. There's lack of investment in disenfranchised communities. These systems are designed to keep wealthy people wealthy and to keep us fighting within each other.
Yeah. And I just want to shout out Khadijah talking about how that wasn't even really a stat because there weren't actually numbers attached to it.
Yeah. Oh my God, people and their stats. Okay.
So to talk about what we're going to be doing today, we wanted to use that as a little bit of an intro. This is the slide we use in every workshop we do, whether you're grown, whether you're not. Expectations are you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, get good grades, you get the internship, you get the job.
Success, right? That's
good.
The line. That's what they tell you.
And on the real, it's not just that this is what today is going to be like, because it's going to be a little bit whining. Some of this information we share is going to be mad relevant to you right now. Some of it's not going to be relevant to you right now. Some of it's going to be relevant, but you can't even deal with it right now. but this is what our finances look like. And this is why when we teach about finance, I know financial literacy is the big term, but the term we like to use is financial resilience, because it's great to know the facts and figures and the numbers and the best practices in these situations. But what happens when stuff hits the fan?
Yeah.
And it always hits the fan.
It always will. Life always happens. And so financial resilience is understanding that a bad day doesn't have to equal a bad month.
And a bad month doesn't have to be a bad year, and a bad year don't have to be a bad career.
Yeah.
So let's keep it moving.
Let's keep it moving. All right. We want y'all to take our quick and dirty money quiz. 1, what do you relate to more? Do you think more about what you have in the bank now and it doesn't feel real until it's in your account?
That's A.
And then B, are you usually spending the next check in your head before it hits your account?
That's for 1. You're going to have A or B. And for 2, and feel free to drop in chat what you got for answers 1 and 2. And for 2, which phrase do you relate to more? A, I tend to plan ahead. Again, that's A. Or B, I tend to deal with these things as they come.
Yes.
Don't take a lot of time to think about it. I'll throw a little Jeopardy.
Yes. So share in chat. Are you AA, AB, BA, or BB? My job. Well, we don't think this will be a good fit for you. For real. Love it.
Yeah, pencils down. Answers in. I love this. What we're doing here with this money personality quiz, letting the cat out the bag there a little, because I can already tell from the people who've been commenting. I already knew their money personalities before they started. I was like, "Yep,
I love it."
I saw Ebony was a BB, and I was like, "I knew that from your last couple comments. I knew it. I could tell."
Okay, these are your money personalities, and the reason why we start with money personalities is because your relationship with money affects your finances in every aspect of your finances.
Well, and this is like everything. You know, we talk about digging into our relationship with money. We talk about when we're trying to get in shape, our relationship with working out and with food and things like that. Because the reality is, you can know all the facts and figures, but if you feel some kind of way, you're not going to do nothing.
Yeah. So when you know your money personality, when you understand your relationship with money, you can start to filter financial advice, not through, oh, it didn't work for me and I must be bad at money, but, oh, it didn't work for me, I'm going to try something else because it didn't fit with my personality. So let's start with the AAs. I saw a number of AAs in here.
I'm looking at the comments. I like the one that said some of my loved ones are BB. Then be asking for support.
Oh, yeah. We'll be talking about that.
Yeah, we don't get into all that. So let's talk about AA.
AAs, complicators, more money, more problems. If you are a complicator, you may be someone who triple checks to make sure your bills are paid. You may be someone who has spreadsheets for your spreadsheets. If you are a complicator, you may be someone who goes through every single possible what if scenario in your head and thinks of the worst case scenario and tries to plan for all of it. And then what happens is you end up having analysis paralysis and not doing anything at all because you've complicated the situation so much that you lost sight of what the actual goal was.
You know how you spend so much time studying that you didn't actually finish the assignment?
Complicator here. I see Nicole. Yes. Excel spreadsheet, right? Yeah. So for complicators, one thing that we recommend you do is to figure out something you can let go of. Is it something you can put on auto pay? Is it something where you can say, oh, can I ask my partner to take care of this? Something you can let go of and know that, hey, that's getting taken care of. And then I can worry about all the other priorities. Because the other thing about complicators is when we get stressed out about money, we try to make everything a priority.
And unlike the complicators, the contemplators, if you answered A for 1 and B for 2, they make nothing a priority. They're really good at improv. You know, when stuff hits the fan, the contemplator is the one who's like, hey, I can figure out a plan. We can make it work.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the day-to-day, contemplators know all this stuff, just like the complicators, except instead of an Excel spreadsheet, they got it all in the Excel spreadsheet in La Cabeza. Right? Because they're like, I know it in my head. I got it all together. But what happens when the rates get changed? What happens when it actually does slip your mind? What happens when you fail to make that minimum payment, even though you just needed to make the minimum? I know it's going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
When you make nothing a priority, the priority becomes whoever is banging at your door the loudest, and then you don't have control. So contemplators, we also ask you guys to find something that you can let go of, but something that you can let go of and automate so you know it's getting done for you. You know you're not going to look at it anyway. Also, for contemplators, you got to figure out what your threshold is. Everybody needs to figure out what their threshold is for looking at their finances. We all can't look at our finances all day long unless
Even though complicators think you can, you actually can't.
Right, you can't and you shouldn't. For contemplators specifically, find out how long you can look at your finances and make it a good long time. If it's 15 minutes, make it a good 15 minutes.
And be okay with that. And then if you answered B for 1 and A for 2, you might be a paper chaser. And paper chaser's solution to their money problems is, I'll just make more money and it will solve all my problems, right?
I know that this may seem like the right money personality, but none of these are the right money personality. These are all just our feelings and our tendencies. For a paper chaser, yeah, make more money and it's going to be fine. If you're making a bunch of money, all of these money personalities work out. You can pay the late fees if you're a contemplator. It's fine.
Yeah, every what if scenario will get taken care of. But the thing about paper chasers is because you're so great at recognizing opportunities, you're so great at getting to the next paycheck, hustling, getting to that next side gig, and you're very what is the word? You have a lot of ingenuity. That's what I'm trying to say. You have a hard time saving because you're like, I want the money to be in motion. The money is going to come. And so I'm going to figure out what I need to do to make sure that it comes in time. Right. And so for paper trades, what we encourage you to do is to not only have a savings account and set aside money for savings, but to think of that savings as another stream of income that you can tap into. For paper chasers, having a savings account may feel stagnant. Think of it as another thing you can put in motion when you need to.
Yeah, and what that really is about paying yourself first. That's what pay yourself first means. Just like have a bank account where you put aside money, you treat it like a stream of income because it's money that's yours, just like the money that's theirs.
Yes.
So also for all money personalities, but for specifically
B,
3 jobs at once. That's right. Yep. I feel you. I know how it is.
Chaser right there.
And so the other side of the coin from the paper chaser is the money monk. And to dispel a few myths, money monks don't think that money is the root of all people. That's not even the quote. The quote is the love of money, the root is all people. But that's not even the point. The point is that money is a thing. It's a tool. It gets us from A to B. I heard someone once say that it's not my money, it's the money, and I'm in charge of where it goes next. And I think that's great to be generous. As a money monk, I'm very generous when I have a lot of money. When I don't have a lot of money, I'm still very generous. But the most important thing, and I think this goes for all of our money personalities, but particularly for money monks, is that when you ask for less money than your work is worth, and I say less money than your work is worth because it's not that we're worth money, we're people, come on. Mm-hmm. But when you ask for less money than your work is worth, you not only get less money, you get less done, you're less likely to be asked back. I told you that, I come from music and I come from education, I worked in theater, and in all these different industries, I'll do the same job for the same people. When I ask for my rate, they got the green room with the green M&Ms and the contract ready for next year and the local news ready to shoot a film segment. When I do like a super favor and take less than my rate, I get there, the place is janky, everything is not set up. Half the time, they don't even know what the program is. So I have to implore y'all, especially my money monks, but really everybody here, because you know how Black folks are super marginalized in all industries. When you are asking for money, when you're asking for your rate, when you're asking to negotiate a salary raise, when you're trying to set your new rates, when you're trying to raise your rates on folks, if you have a number in your head that you know always is devaluing your work, take that number and double it.
Yes.
I know it's scary. I know it's scary. It's scary for me to say this to y'all because I understand the power of that, because it's like, what if they say no, right? Yeah. What if they say, I don't want to mess with you? What if they say that you're not worth it? Good. Leave them behind. I spent many years breaking my back when you were talking about having all these jobs, having all these gigs, or I worked for all of these folks who weren't valuing me and weren't valuing my time. I was exhausted. I was stressed out. I was not getting what I wanted to get done, and I wasn't getting paid enough. I started charging my rate. I started saying no to the people who were saying no to me, and was able to get my rate and have more bandwidth that if there was that charity out there that wanted some pro bono stuff, I could do that.
Yeah, I love it. Yes, ask for more. All of us need to hear that, but especially our money monks. So we want you to keep your money personality in mind as we go through the rest of the presentation, really, and see what resonates with you and what doesn't. And that's the stuff that you can start taking away today. Mm-hmm. All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is spending. I saw Ebony's comment. Now I just want enough money to be comfortable and to travel. Mm-hmm. I love it. This is the best piece of financial advice I ever got. Where you spend your money is a representation of what you value, period. Are your values actually and your spending truly in line? Are you really putting your money where your mouth is? And we have a little matrix for you to do that.
By the way, I just wanted to shout out from
Yeah.
Robert Gold. I'm actually doing myself this week. Anyone who talk about competitive ass strategy, shoot me a message.
I
So
love
that's
it.
Robert Gold. Shoot him a message because he's working on it.
Yes. Say no to the people, say no to you. Yes. Okay. So, spending values matrix.
This is something, if you're a business major or going to be one, we borrowed this from their productivity matrix, but we thought that this would be a really great way to dig into, I guess, a pre-budget. This is for folks that don't love budgeting, and that's most of us. I don't love budgeting.
Yeah. No, a lot of people who aren't complicators probably don't love budgeting. And sometimes we secretly don't also. So the thing about the spending values matrix is it will help you determine what your spending values actually are. First, we start with the basics, and the basics are things that are rent, utilities, cell phone bill, transportation costs, all of the stuff that you need to physically live and survive. It's going to be different for everyone, but your basics are your baseline, right? That's the number that usually people start with when they budget. They're like, well, I know all of these numbers. Those are also called your fixed expenses. You figure out what that number is, what that basics number is, and then you set it aside, because now the fun part begins. And this is the part I'm seeing like Whole Foods, Amazon, Target in there.
Oh, yeah, seen lots of stuff. By the way, from Sharami, and let me know if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. I thought you were saying, but how we could do this with no safety net. I think you were talking about before about asking and raising your rates. These today is kind of a crash course through a lot of things. I should have said that earlier in the beginning. We have a number of podcasts that we have and other workshops where we go more in depth in a lot of these strategies. So we would love to rap to you more about that, because it is a whole lot. And you're right. You can't just be leaping without some kind of safety net.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just want to throw that out there.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
we're not making things dangerous. So let's go back to the matrix.
Yes. So the details are, well, I don't really need to buy that thing on Amazon right now, but I need to buy that thing on Amazon right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about details is they're the things that give you life emotionally. They're the things that you are told you shouldn't spend money on. They're maybe the coffee that you buy every day. Oh,
yo, I mean, it's not just the coffee you buy every day, right? And the what's it called? The avocado toast.
The avocado toast.
Yo, The Latte Factor is a best-selling book. There is a lady who got rich telling poor folks that they should stop buying coffee. That's the whole reason for this. Well, I don't. Maybe in her heart she cares about people and their coffee and all that, but really she wanted to get rich selling books.
Yeah, the thing about the details is they're the things you feel the most guilty about, because they're the things you actually enjoy spending money on.
Well, and it's not just that you enjoy spending money on; they do something for you, like you said about feeding you emotionally. You said "give you life." The phrase "give you life" is not a metaphorical phrase; it's a real phrase. When people are saying that you are inspired, the denotative definition of inspire is to breathe in.
Mm-hmm.
When we say that these things are giving you life, they really are. They make you feel like yourself. And you know how you're able to do things when bring it back. You know how you're not able to do stuff when you don't feel like yourself? You know how tired you are? You know how nothing seems to mean anything? So when you feel like yourself, you can get the things done that you need to. And this is where the details come in.
Yes. And the thing about the details is if you don't spend money on the details, it's not like you set aside that money in a savings account. That's not what happens. The money gets spent anyway, but instead of spending money on things you want, you end up spending money on the nothing. And the nothing are the things that you don't even remember spending money on. That's the where does all my money go question, right? The nothing is those random. I've literally woken up in the middle of the night, bought something on Amazon, and fell back asleep.
Well, the nothing also happens when you're trying too hard to be good.
Yes.
When you're like, I'm not going to go to the coffee shop. I'm not going to go there. You don't go there all week. And then on Friday, you're like, I'm going today. I'm sorry. I've had a long weekend. And you go there and you splurge because you haven't spent the money. And you're like, oh, you know what? That Danish looks good. You don't even like Danishes, but it smelled good today. And next thing you know, you're walking out of Starbucks for like $43 worth of stuff.
For real. Like, how did that happen?
Well, and the way that it happens is that we are psychologically taught to spend money. That's a whole thing.
Straight up.
It's very easy to spend money. It's very hard not to spend money. In fact, in terms of social cues, there are no social cues for saving money. The only time we talk about saving money is when we go, hey, yo, I saved some money on this shirt. But I didn't save any money. I spent less money than I expected to spend.
Yes,
that's how insidious it is.
So if you can figure out the difference between the detail spending and the nothing spending, that's when you're really going to start spending in line with your values, and you'll find yourself being able to put some money towards the yes box.
Yeah, and to talk about how we can figure out the details and the nothing, the quickest thing for me, and I know we're like flying through this, but I thought this was a really important tip. Is it a story?
Yeah.
Do you remember it happening? If you literally look at your ledger and you're like, I don't remember buying this thing, then maybe it's not a good purchase.
Yeah.
If you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, me and the homies, we're hanging out, we're having a good time. It doesn't have to be got you through a thing. It can be, here is a good memory I have with people I love, and that's fine.
Yes, exactly. Because when you can figure out how to spend more on the details and the things that you love and less on the nothing, you actually can find that you have some money left over to put in the yes box. And the yes box practically translates to a savings account. But we call it the yes box because your savings account is your ability to say yes. It's your ability to say yes to opportunities, to say yes to covering emergencies, to say yes to not having to worry about the next financial thing.
Yeah, it's been a stat that's been produced is the average emergency in America is $400, and 1 out of 2 Americans can't handle that. So if you need to start, if you have nothing in savings and you need to start with an emergency fund, cool, that's fine. But we don't want it to stop at emergencies. We want you to make sure to reach for more. So many times, especially with Black folks, we're taught that you just need to get your head above water and then just start treading water until you're too tired and then drown. We're trying to get ourselves out of water and on the boat.
Yes.
And by the boat.
Yeah, exactly. And I love these comments. Product placement in the store makes you have impulse buying. It's so true. They catch you when you're tired, when you have when you're spending in the nothing and things like that.
Well, because we're smart, right? We know about the impulse buys. We know about the color strategies, all the stuff. And when we're alert and together, we don't get played. But when we're worn down, we do. So we try to protect ourselves so that when we're worn down, we still have the strategies to move on through.
And Jessica, don't feel bad about spending $15 at Starbucks if that's part of your details. So this is why,
talking about stats,
speaking of things in Instagram, this is why we feel bad about spending money. Because look at how many likes this got. 15,000 people like this.
I don't think I've gotten 15,000 likes in my entire Insta career.
No. For real. 15,000. And this is the message we get, right? If you're rich, that means you don't spend money on clothes and designer things and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And if you're poor, you should feel bad for all that money that you frivolously wasted away.
Yeah, man. What I love about this is another way something is a scam when it comes to finances is that they use irregular, extremely specific numbers. So these people talk about 89.20. What expensive shirt or chain? Because I can't tell. I think it's the chain is actually supposed to be 89.20. What chain is $8,920? So it was I'll give you $80 off. It was supposed to be $9,000, but
This is gaslighting, straight up. This is financial gaslighting right here. Do not feel bad if you like to buy this stuff. Make it a part of your details and budget for it. It's okay to have it in your budget.
Yeah, I love Dominique.com's tip about started by the max amount you could put into savings without being unable to pay bills.
Ooh, backward savings. That's interesting. I actually had a client who, instead of having direct deposit go to her checking account, she had her direct deposit go to her savings account and then moved money to her checking to spend.
Word.
I was like, if you got to do that kind of stuff, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I love it.
As complicated as that sounds for some folks, some of you guys might have gotten excited because making it difficult for yourself is another one of the saving strategies.
Yes.
Backward savings, you call that?
Yeah.
Did you know, Dominique, did you know it had a name and everything? Or did you just pull that out yourself?
I just made that up too, so.
Oh, I thought you it was a whole thing.
So I saw someone ask in the chat if y'all receive support from family members, and POC are actually more likely to be supporting family members. So what we found is they're more likely to be sending money back a generation, help pay for mom's rent. They're the ones paying the family cell phone plan. And the reality is this needs to be added to your budget. We want you to think of your budget as when you add something to your budget, you can control your budget. And so as we talk about that, this is one of our POC wealth tips is having a family savings fund. So choose an amount that you can contribute to a family savings fund. It could be $100 a month, $300, whatever regular amount you feel like you can budget. And you can either decide to send this money to your family member each month or family members if that's the situation that they're in where they regularly need money from you, or you can save up that money in the savings fund until an unexpected emergency comes up.
And this works for a lot of different models and a lot of very different family types of setups. We say about if you need to send money to family, because that often is the case, right?
That always happens, and it usually happens last minute. And the reality is that family members come to you last minute, not because they haven't been thinking about it and they haven't been trying to figure it out. It's because they actually didn't really want to bother you, and they were like, oh, crap, now I do actually need to ask for money. And so this stuff is going to come up last minute. So why don't we plan for those last minute things? You don't have to send money every month. You just have to have the money set aside and budget for it.
To make it even simpler than worrying about some imaginary emergency, do you know how many people are surprised every year by Christmas shopping? I can't tell you how many people I know that once, what is it like? It's like November 25th or 26th.
Yeah.
They're like, oh no, I need another $5,000 to spend on my huge family and stuff. Oh, how am I going to do that? It's going to put me in arrears. And it always ends up putting people in debt. And you spend the next 3 months trying to get yourself out of that.
Yeah.
When we can plan for these things.
Yeah. And so this is a reality. And it's one of those things, again, what you budget, you can control. And so if you are budgeting for saving for family members who reach out to you for help, then do it. Here's the thing. I've heard horrible stories from clients, from other financial planners that they work with. I had one client who met with a financial advisor who said they were looking at their budget together, and the financial advisor said, well, if you just stop sending money to your brother, then you could definitely save. And she didn't see a financial planner again for years. Because you're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. The reality is one of your values is helping your family. And so let's plan for that. Let's budget for it and let's control it.
Yeah, I see you in the chat calling it the black tax. That's the thing. It can feel like a tax when we're not in control of it.
Yeah.
And when we're in control of it, then it's not a tax. It's a foundation.
Yes.
You know, and I see Felicia, I'm so sorry. Your daughter's birthday is on Christmas, which, wow.
That's a big family savings fund right there. Oh man. Okay. So now we want to go into a little bit of psychology here. And
that's also, I feel bad for your daughter because then like you never get to be the star at your party.
Oh, it's true. That's true. I would just pick a different day. But so although it was a great Christmas present for you, I bet. 16. Wow. That's beautiful. So I don't know if you all have heard of the marshmallow test.
So talking about kids.
Yeah. Speaking of kids, this study was designed to predict if a kid had willpower at a young age, if they were able to delay gratification at a young age, it would lead to success later in life.
One thing that we like to nerd out about is behavioral psychology, especially when it comes to finance. This is a very popular and famous study in the behavioral psychology world.
So the way that it works is they sit a 5-year-old in a room and they put a marshmallow in front of them and they say, hey kid, you can eat the marshmallow now, or if you wait 5 minutes and you don't eat the marshmallow, then when I come back in to get you, I'm going to give you another marshmallow and you get 2 marshmallows. And so they were trying to figure out which kids didn't eat the second, or which kids didn't eat the first marshmallow and got 2 marshmallows if they were more successful later in life.
As you would assume, black and brown kids and poorer white kids tended to eat the marshmallow and not wait for the second one.
Yes. So is this a sign that they weren't going to be successful in later life?
I mean, mind you, we watched a video online. There's mad cute videos online of kids. And there's one girl who's probably going to take over the world where her thing was she saw her like sniffing the marshmallow, just sniffing it. And she sniffed it, and then put it back. And then she got her second marshmallow. And we found out after people went in the room, while she was sniffing it, she was hollowing it out. She ate the whole marshmallow and left the outside. And left the shell. So she had her marshmallow and ate it too.
Yeah.
So maybe for her, it was a good predictor. But for the most part, it wasn't a good predictor of personal responsibility, but actually
socioeconomic class. What they found was the Atlantic did a whole piece on this. They tried to replicate the marshmallow test and they couldn't replicate it. And what they realized was the kids who ate the marshmallow first were from poorer backgrounds. And so what happened was they didn't have a promise of tomorrow. There might not be food tomorrow. There might not be the thing that they told they were going to get might not come. So why would they wait for the second marshmallow? Of course they ate the marshmallow first.
That's the realest thing with poor folks, right? You're told you're going to get something, that something's going to happen. All you got to do is work hard and keep your head down. Mm-hmm. And then it just doesn't happen. And you get used to that.
Yeah.
So all it's showing was actually these kids were not dumb or not lacking willpower. They were very smart.
Yeah.
And they saw the patterns and they were moving according to the patterns that they were given.
So think about if you grew up like this and all of a sudden you got a job where you're making high 5 figures, 6 figures for the first time ever. You got all the freaking marshmallows, right? Of course, your instinct is to spend all the money. That's why it can feel so hard to save. It's not because you're bad at saving. It's not because you're bad at money. It's because this habit and this pattern that you learned is ingrained in you. And so no matter how much money you have, no matter how many marshmallows you get, your instinct is going to be to eat them all first.
By the way, I just got to say, Higher Black, y'all are definitely my peoples. I appreciate how much people are wiling out in the comments about behavioral psych. Yes. They're like, yeah, studies, bring in the studies. We want to hear all the case studies. That's what's up.
That's right. I love it.
We'll do that.
Yeah. So the thing about your habits is they can start to feel like they're a part of you, right? Habits become traditions, traditions become truth.
And truth becomes common sense. This is how we have these habits. You know, we know that in the Black community, but in all communities, I think they have these habits that help us survive, that are the ones that don't help us thrive. There are these things that we have that have been passed down, that have helped us get by, but they're not going to get us to the next step. And the biggest, most insidious part about it, I keep saying that stuff is insidious because it is, it's deep seated and we don't know it's there, but it's hurting us, is that these are things that we are just going to say, well, you know, that's just, it's common sense.
Yeah.
Well, it's just reality.
I'm just bad at saving. It's just hard.
That's how those Instagram comments and those posts happen. Because it's common sense. I don't even think, like, to be honest, I don't think those posters had a malicious bone in their body or wanted to say harmful things about Black people. Maybe the first person, because that first one with the grammar and all that.
Anyway.
But that one with the pictures of the clothes, I wouldn't be surprised if that was a Black person who put that together, who was saying, we spend too much money on all these things, because that's what's told to us. We're told that's the common sense, is that we spend frivolously, and I want us to not. So I want to post these things out there to expose these problems. And then the snake begins to eat the tail, because all we're doing is combating stereotypes that aren't even really real.
Yeah. Yeah. So think about what habits you have that you may not even realize you have. Habits are also generational, right? Habits are passed down from generation to generation for survival. There's a reason why you have them. There's a reason why they serve you now. And is there something you can change and tweak to have habits that serve you?
Well, and to get all like science study about it, they've had those studies where they teach rats how to run a maze, and then the rats pass away, and the rats' children who never saw the maze instinctively know how to run the maze. And when you wonder, when people say things in the Black community like, we have problems with literacy, we have problems with family, you don't think that there's some history behind that to lead us into that situation?
Yeah, no.
Not to mention the stuff that goes on today that continues to perpetuate, but that's a whole next thing.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. The thing that I want you to remember about saving, because saving can feel like one of the hardest things to do, is saving is not an amount. Saving is an action, right? Habits are an action. So it doesn't matter how much you can save. It's about having the action. The first action might be opening a savings account because you've never had a savings account before. The next action might be putting $5, $10, $15 in your savings account every single month. Make it a habit. Make it something that's a part of you. Don't worry about the amount. The amount does not matter. The amount does not matter. It doesn't matter how much you save. It matters that you start to think of yourself as a saver.
And it's really hard because it not only feels difficult, and it's much more difficult than it sounds like.
Yeah.
But it also feels stupid. You're going to feel dumb when you're putting $25 a month for 3 months, and you're like, oh, I've got $75 in there. That's like one nice night on the town. So like, forget it. Maybe and you have to keep leaving it in there. Even when it becomes $300, you're like, oh, whatever. That's like a couple of nights on the town. That's nothing.
Yeah. But if you start to think of yourself as a saver and think of saving as an action, then the amount will come. Saving is not an amount. Saving is an action.
That's why we don't start saving with our the tax return.
Yes, that's one of the questions.
When you get that refund, I know that's just like, yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Oh,
You're right.
It's not the next one. My bad. I thought that I was jumping right into the right
So
one.
let's talk about debt and saving, right? Because so many people are like, well, I have so much debt. I have a credit card. I don't have any money to save. I don't have any money to save because I have so much debt.
We have a number of shows and lots of workshops where we go in super depth on debt.
Here's the thing that I found about people who are constantly focused on paying debt is they always have debt, right? Because what happens when you put all of your extra resources towards paying down debt is that you don't have any money left when something unexpected happens, and you end up having to put it back on the credit card anyway.
Well, and talk about habits to survive and not thrive. Black folks from every region. How many of y'all got family that have told you don't spend money you don't have? I've heard it in every Black accent that exists in America.
Yeah. So you feel bad already that you have the debt, and your goal is just get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. We want you, even if you just have to make minimum payments, to start saving something. While you're paying down the debt, do not put all your extra resources toward paying down the debt.
This is what folks mean by pay yourself first. And it's not just a silly trick. It's about respecting yourself. It's about making sure you have liquidity. That's, the finance term.
Yes.
That just means money available to you so that you can reach it at a moment's notice if stuff goes down.
Yes, exactly. And then to your tax refund.
Yeah.
I just got my tax refund. Should I pay down my debt? No. All windfalls should go to savings. Anything extra goes to savings. You want to build up that savings account. Again, saving is an action, not an amount, right?
Well, and what I was saying about the tax refund thing is also don't think of that as like, that's what I'm going to start saving, because that's when I get a bunch of money and like, oh, I can save that and it's easy.
Don't wait.
Don't wait till it's easy.
Yes. And so all debt payments should be part of your budget. All savings, all that extra money that you get, put in your savings account.
Can we get a little financial plannery for a second? Because I just saw Randy, who, by the way, thank you, Randy. You've been saying so much awesome stuff in the chat. I think I get nervous about accumulated interest. That's a really valid concern.
Accumulated interest. You mean paying taxes on the accumulated interest?
I think accumulated interest in terms of debt.
Oh, in terms of debt. Oh, sorry, the other way. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So minimum payments will usually cover interest, so you're not paying interest on your interest. So that's the first thing I would check, is to make sure that your finance charge is less than the actual minimum payment that you're making. And then you're not actually accumulating interest. You're paying off the interest every single month.
Well, and when you think about debt and interest, like, remember that interest is time.
Yes, interest is you buying yourself time. And so if you need to buy yourself a little bit of time so that you can have that saving cushion, so you're not always going back and forth on your credit card balance, because this is really what happens. I've had clients who have said they've been trying to pay down their debt for 11 years because they've been worried about the interest. And meanwhile, they've been paying interest for 11 years because all they do is pay down their debt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So the one thing we want you to keep in mind through all of this as we go into credit especially is
wealth is not just about assets.
It's also about access. So it's not just about accumulating assets. The thing about debt, the thing about using debt as a tool is debt gives you access, right? Mm-hmm. When you think about a mortgage, when you think about the ability to buy something that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and only having to put 3% down, 5% down, 10% down, that is how you leverage debt to be able to access things.
Ooh, on the pay yourself first thing, right? So you have $1 million, right? That's how much you got, $1 million in the bank. And you see a house that you want to buy. It costs $1 million. Well, you're not just going to go, I'm going to take my whole $1 million and buy this. No,
that's not what rich people do.
You're going to go get a loan, get into debt, give them a down payment, and still have like $700,000 left over to do stuff with.
Pay hella low interest, get a tax deduction.
You could buy 2 houses.
You could buy two houses. You know. So remember this, because the thing is, your credit score is racist as hell, you all. They're so racist. They started from racist places. They penalize POC. They penalize poor communities all across the board. The reality is, though, that the credit scoring system is what gives us access to wealth.
Yeah, if you guys were with us on this, we did. Didn't we do a drinking game?
We did with Niani. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So raising your whole family's credit score may be the thing that you need to do, because again, POC, we think about our whole family. We think about things intergenerationally. So is there a way for you to help your family members check their credit reports and their credit scores? Can you do that with them? Can you dispute credit report mistakes together? Can you advocate for family members when dealing with collections agencies or delinquencies?
I want to pull back this dispute credit report mistakes together, because it's, again, like real serious, like Black community thing. Because I remember when Mama Lek would tell me not to send a burger back at the restaurant because they're going to spit in your food. And we're always taught and told not to rock the boat and not to mess with things when there's mistakes, because it's probably our fault. And what that leads to is when I get a weird number on my credit report, or I remember when I had some weird numbers on, it was like a phone bill, and I just paid it rather than dispute it, because I was like, oh, I deserve this because I've been beaten the head. Talk about generational traumas, y'all were saying in the chat. I've been beaten the head so long that I believe that it was my fault.
Yeah, exactly. So in that vein, it's so much easier to advocate for other people than for yourself. So have your family members advocate for each other when you're talking about disputing credit, delinquencies, collections, things like that. Just say you're their financial advocate. Just use that term and say, I'm their financial advocate. I'm going to speak for them. That works all the time. And then the last thing is the authorized user as a tool.
This is a huge deal.
So let's talk about the power of the authorized user. If you're not familiar with it, an authorized user is someone who can be added to the primary holder's credit card, and they get issued a separate card, but all of the expenses funnel up to the main credit card holder. What that means when you add someone on as an authorized user is if the credit card is good standing and has no late payments, which accounts for 35% of your score, the card's been open for a while, which accounts for 15% of your score, and the card has a high limit with a low balance, which accounts for 30% of your score, the person who becomes an authorized user's credit will improve, or if that person has no credit, it will generate a credit score for the first time.
It will set them up.
It will set them up. Parents do this for their kids all the time.
How many of y'all went for your first apartment or your first any sort of thing that needed credit and you didn't realize that you needed to do stuff to have your credit together before you could even enter in that?
Yeah.
I know I didn't.
Yeah.
I just walked in there, was like, oh, you signed a contract, right? I make money and it's okay, right?
Yep.
And the landlord's like, wait, you need credit.
Yep. Exactly. So you can use it with each other. If someone in your family has great credit and you need some credit, see if you can be an authorized user on their account. The risk is that you as the primary account holder are responsible for paying all of the charges on that person's card.
So if you mess up, it messes up their credit too.
Yes, but also you don't have to take that you don't have to give anyone your authorized user card that you create for them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to tell them you put them on as an authorized user. Someone who puts you on as an authorized user doesn't have to actually give you the card to spend money on it. It's really just rigging the game so that you can increase your credit.
It's such a big deal. I mean, with our communities, especially people in foster communities, it often happens on the opposite end.
Yes.
Where adults are messing around with the kids' credit and they start with bad credit. So we can do the opposite and make sure we hold our kids down.
Yes. Wealth is not just about assets. It is about access.
Oh, from Felicia, Capital One allows you to add children to build credit.
Love it. Yes.
They have a lot of easy systems.
Yes. So the final thing that we want to talk about is thinking about personal finance as a revolutionary act. The thing is, when you feel empowered in your finances, you feel like you can act. So are you spending in line with your values? Do you have a savings cushion? Do you have a good credit score? Do you understand investing and how to take advantage of the retirement system? Do you file your taxes? Because people not filing their taxes means we end up hiding from our finances, right? Do you have an estate plan? Are you making sure that you're passing on your wealth generationally?
Lyndon Johnson said the biggest threat to national security in the 60s was the Panthers' free lunch program. And while it seemed like a simple thing, it was about making sure that we could collectively act and hold ourselves down so that we could be ready for revolution. We're not going to be ready for changing the world, changing the system, if we can't hold ourselves down in our simple personal finances. If you don't have your credit score together, if you don't have your finances together, if you don't have your debt situation together, you can be taken out of the game very easily.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I love this comment from Jolie. There's so much fear in money management in my family, generational trauma and lack of education on credit and money management. Yes. And the system is set up to make us afraid and to make us feel all alone. So we love seeing all these comments in the chat. We love all of you talking to each other about it. The final thing we want to talk about is I know we ran through all of these things. We actually have a group financial planning program for POC where we do financial planning through a racial wealth divide lens called Sea Change. It's opening on 10/26, so in a couple weeks. And we actually talked to Niani about this, and she asked if we could have a special higher Black cohort for this round. So the way that Sea Change works, we'll walk you through it because we are opening up the program to reserve spots today. And this is brunchandbudget.com/Sea Change. Is you get a financial coach who's your advisor, advocate, and your cheerleader. You get a financial roadmap put together where you and your coach will go through 2 strategy calls and be onboarded onto a financial portal where you'll link all of your accounts, and you'll get a roadmap to talk about exactly what steps you need to take to start building wealth. You'll also be part of a cohort. So you'll be added to a cohort of 8 people. There's this beautiful thing that I saw from Adrienne Marie Brown's Emergent Strategies, where the reason why huge flocks of birds can flock in hundreds of thousands, as you see in this picture behind you, is because they actually just pay attention to the closest 7 people around them. So imagine how powerful we could be if we thought about small as all, if we thought about taking care of our cohort and our community and our immediate vicinity so that we could all lift ourselves up together.
And I'm already seeing this in the chat, the types of things that you guys are sharing with each other and the really awesome resources that you're helping each other with. I even saw Akeem has free workout sessions.
Oh my God, amazing.
On his Instagram story. So check that out if you need some workout stuff. All of this is the kind of things that our cohorts talk about and share with each other on a regular basis.
Yes, because as we know, finances affect every aspect of our lives. The other thing is you'll have seasonal progress check-ins with your financial coach. So every January, May, and September, when big transitions tend to happen in the year, you're going to meet one-on-one with your financial coach to make sure you're still making progress. And the community is going to be the biggest aspect of Sea Change.
Yeah, to be really, really real about it, financial planning is expensive. It's not a luxury. It's an expensive necessity, but an expensive thing. it costs too much money for financial planning for most folks to afford it. Brunch and Budget, which is way more affordable than other types of financial planning, is still not a cheap service. So what we put together is to make it so it can be semi-affordable. We put it in a group setting where we have peer mentoring and lean on each other.
And we also, this time around, we're actually able to get a pretty significant subsidy. So with all of the services that we offer, it would actually cost $200 a month for pricing out everything, but we got a pretty great grant this year from a nonprofit, and we're able to lower the cost. So it's $50 a month for an individual and $75 a month for a couple. We have 32 spots available on 1026, and like we mentioned before, we are doing a special hire Black cohort forming this round as well. So if y'all want to be in a cohort and talk to each other for the next year about all this stuff, then we'd love to have you be a part of Sea Change.
By the way, if any of these numbers that we are throwing felt nervous and uncomfortable, we want you to know, even if you are not ready to join a cohort or even make these big steps, is to start talking about the numbers like this. Start being transparent about money. Start talking to each other about money. The biggest way that they keep money out of our hands is they keep us from sharing it with each other. They keep telling us that our peers are our competition and that we have to hurt each other instead of holding each other down.
Yes. So thank you all so much for joining us. This is our contact information. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Sea Change Financials, if you want to learn more information about what we just talked about. We love the chat. We love talking to y'all. Thank you so much for all of your energy and all of your comments.
Yeah, peace, y'all.